You say you're just tired. Not sad, not burned out, not disconnected. Just tired. You use it casually, as an explanation, as a conclusion. And maybe it's true. But let's slow that sentence down and look at it more closely. When did you start saying that? Not the first time you felt exhausted, the first time it became your default answer. What happened around that time? Not dramatically, nothing collapsed, nothing obvious ended, just life continuing. Another question. What does tired allow you to avoid explaining? Because notice, it ends conversations. It requires no follow-up, no curiosity, no change. I'm just tired is emotionally efficient. Here's where it gets interesting. You say you're tired, but you can stay up late scrolling, thinking, replaying conversations. You can be alert when something demands you. You can focus on things that don't matter. So this isn't simple fatigue. If it were just tiredness, rest would solve it. But rest doesn't quite touch it. Sleep helps your body, not whatever this is. Let's ask it differently. What happens when you don't feel tired? When you suddenly have energy, what follows? Pressure? Expectations? Decisions? Movement? Because for some people, tiredness isn't the problem. It's the pause button, a socially acceptable way to stay exactly where you are. Every story we tell ourselves has a benefit. So what does "I'm just tired" give you? It gives you permission to disengage without having to admit you're disengaging. It lets you opt out without having to explain why. It protects you from questions like, what do I actually want? What would change if I had energy? What am I avoiding starting? Tiredness becomes a shield, not consciously, efficiently. This is the part people resist. What if this isn't exhaustion? What if it's emotional withholding? Not because you're incapable, but because you learned that fully engaging costs more than it gives back. What if your system decided, quietly, that low energy was safer than full investment? And it worked. So it stayed. You don't say, I don't care the way I used to. You say, I'm tired. You don't say, I don't feel connected to this. You say, I'm tired. You don't say, I don't know what I want. You say, I'm tired. At some point, this stopped being a state and became a description of who you are. And descriptions feel stable, even when they're inaccurate. So here's the only question that matters. If you weren't tired, what would you have to feel instead? Don't answer it now. Just notice how quickly your mind looks away. That reaction is more honest than the story.